Hey everyone, welcome to the Rebellious Garden. My name is Laura and I'm so glad you're here today. Well, it is the end of October. The garden is looking a little sad. The other one looks a little bit better than this one, but this one's looking pretty sad. A lot of dead stuff. But I'm gonna start pulling a lot of the dead plants out today, get everything cleared out, and I'm gonna start getting my cool flowers planted in the garden. It's gonna take me a couple of days to get this stuff done, but I'm excited for this transition. I really hate to see the beautiful flowers go, but I'm excited to start preparing for the spring of 2023. Now, I am planning to leave the stuff that is still growing really well. I'm still leaving it because I still have requests for bouquets and stuff. So whatever's doing well, I'm gonna leave. Whatever's on the struggle bus or already dead, it's gone. The end of October, which is where we're at, we typically get our first frost. We've had 2 light frosts already in the middle of October. We had our first one the morning of October the 19th and our second one the morning of October 20th. It was a light frost because of the trees and other structures that we had, plus because we had a little bit of a breeze that night. Thankfully, we didn't have any of our flowers die. I'm very thankful for that. So, like I said, I'm going to try to keep these going as long as I can. Pull out the ones that are already struggling pretty hard and the ones that are already dead, as well as get rid of a lot of the weeds and stuff that have grown in, and start flipping the beds and preparing them for 2023. And while I was filming that, I heard my dogs barking and the mailman delivered the last of my bulbs. So here's to a future video telling you about all the flower bulbs I have. So, looking at the gardens, I'm going to pull the dried beans, save the seed. Sorry, my hand caused it to blur. Pull the dried beans, save any seed that looks somewhat decent for next year. Here, I'm just gonna go through, that's Gerber Daisy. I leave it every year. I'm gonna leave some of my Lysianthus just to see how they do with overwintering. I like to experiment a little each year and just test a few things, because we do have, by definition, where we live in Eastern North Carolina, we have a fairly mild winter. So Lysianthus are considered more of a cool weather flower as far as when they grow best. They flower in the warmer weather, but they grow really well in cooler weather. So I'm going to leave some of the Lysianthus. I'm just going to kind of trim them back and just see how they do. But I want to clean out this entire bed lengthwise right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull this dahlia. This is the 2nd or 3rd year it's been here. Like, I've always left the tuber in the ground. It did not good. You could see it just kind of died off. So I'm just going to pull it and make sure it doesn't have any type of gall. And if it does, I'm going to dig up the dirt around it. I'm going to pull the snaps that are done, the yarrow that's done here. I'm going to probably leave that marigold that's right there. Leave the zinnias, because I pull off the marigolds to do pumpkin arrangements. But I'm going to try to pull as many weeds out. Here, I'm going to leave the zinnias and the Gomphrena, pull everything else in the background there because it is dead. And if you wonder why I have this netting around my garden, I like it because I can pull the fence post off the side of the garden to more easily access things. Got a little bee. Hello, friend. Trying to get them. There we go. So I can more easily access the side of the garden beds. But we have a lot of feral cats in the area that we live in, and they like to use my garden as a litter box. So I had, and it was like killing plants because where they would dig, it would dig up the roots. So I had to put this around the garden to keep them out. So that's why that's there. That's the only reason that's there. I don't like having fences up around the garden. Anywho, so we talked about that. This bed, I'm gonna pull everything out of because it's mostly dead except for this dahlia. I'm gonna leave it in ground. This is the one that I call the Rebellious Dahlia because this one I started from seed and it's done good for 2 years. So I'm gonna leave it in ground once again just to see how it does. Maybe I might change my mind and dig the tubers later, who knows. But I'm gonna dig everything from here except for leaving the marigolds. Another reason I want to leave the marigolds, I have quite a few, is because I do still see a lot of our bees and insects and stuff go into these, and so I want to give our pollinators the opportunity to get as much nectar and stuff that they need for the winter. Speaking of cats, see, lots of cats in our neighborhood. All right. So I want to leave the marigolds so they have ample opportunity. There it goes. They always run to the ditch behind the house to try to hide. But I'm going to pull all of this out except for the marigolds. I'm going to clean this bed out except for the marigolds. And then this back, I'm going to pull the glads. Hey, darling. I'm going to pull the glads and try to save some of those corms to see if we can get some more glads next year. I'm going to leave the rest of this right here because I'm still getting a lot of celosia and amaranth out of this, and I use some of the yarrow leaves. Oh dude, it's starting to rain a little. That's weird. I'm gonna use some of the yarrow leaves for my pumpkin arrangements, and I'm doing some experiments with these as well for, I'll tell you about that later. I'm not gonna share it right now. But so I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna pull that. I'm gonna clean this bed out completely because everything's done in it except for the tomato plant is still producing. I already said I was gonna clean that bed. The dahlias here are still producing, so I'm gonna leave these dahlias. I'm gonna leave the zinnias there, but the entire bed on the other side of it, I'm gonna clean completely out. So I have tools, my number one tool in my hands, and let's get started. Got this whole row done. I have a few little spots of stuff that I left. These are Lysianthus. I have about 3 more right here, and then down there a little thing of, where's my hand? There it is. Down there a little thing of amaranth that I'm going to leave just because it is still producing and I want to use it. My beans, I pulled some off that were, the vines were dead, but you can see this vine is still like a yellow-green color. It hasn't completely dried up. One thing that I do to make pulling vines off of fence panels a lot easier is I pull the root out of the ground. So I went down the fence panel, and anything that hadn't dried and already broken, I pull the root out of the ground, and then I'll leave these here for a few days to finish drying up, and then it'll make pulling them off this fence panel a lot easier. Something else I wanted to show you, I accidentally pulled one of my dahlias just a second ago. This one was a mystery tuber that when I ordered a bunch of dahlias from a grower, when I ordered a bunch of dahlias from a grower, when you order so many, they would send you like a mystery tuber, and it's just kind of like an extra dahlia tuber. And so I planted it. I got 1 dahlia off of it, which is, you know, it's okay, because I don't know what kind it was. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was like an orangey peachy color. I loved it. But one thing I have done, figured out in my research or learned, is that if you have a dahlia that doesn't produce well, then you can save your tubers and give it a try next year. And then, you know, maybe it was just still kind of young, whatever. So I'm going to save the tubers off of this just to get some experience saving dahlia tubers over the winter, storing them inside, and also to give this beautiful flower another chance because it was gorgeous last year. I planted it a little late, so I think it had that working against it as well. But I wanted to show you what the tubers look like when you pull them. Just breaking off some of the leaves. So when you plant a dahlia tuber, it looks like a little potato. It's they can be anywhere from this size to, you know, the length of my hand. So it's usually plant a single tuber, and the dahlia grows from it, and then throughout the season it produces more tubers. So from season to season you can turn 1 dahlia tuber into 3 or 10 tubers depending upon the plant and how well it produces tubers. So this was 1 tuber that probably lengthwise was about the size of my finger, and then it was It wasn't that big around. It looked like a new potato. It wasn't very big, but this is what it produces. It was like a clump. That's what it is. It's a clump of tubers. But each of these are tubers right here. So all of those are tubers. And what I'll do, because I haven't really had a lot of experience saving these, is I will rinse this off, let it kind of air dry briefly, not for long, because you don't want your tubers to dry out and shrivel up. I will make sure that it doesn't have any type of crown or leaf gall, which I don't see any obvious signs of it, but the dirt could be covering some of that up. So I will inspect that real good and see if it has any type of gall, which is a type of disease you don't want on your dahlia plants. If it has gall, the best thing to do is literally trash it. Like, don't compost it, throw it in the trash. And then don't put dahlias anywhere in that area for several years, because the gall lives in the soil. A lot of people will like dig out the soil around the area to try to clean their bed of the disease. But I don't see any signs of it, which is good. I forget the name of it, some lumps and bumps, which means that the tuber was subject to excess moisture, which where I had it planted, yeah, it got a lot of water right there. So that's okay. That's not gonna hurt this. But I'm gonna store these, well, rinse the dirt off, inspect it for any type of leafy or crown gall, and then store the tubers. There's different ways that you can store the tubers over winter, but I'm going to store the tubers inside because they cannot freeze. So where our ground really doesn't freeze very deeply where we are, but we have had some winters where it was just excessively cold and did, but for the most part it don't. But I'm going to practice storing these inside just to see how they do. That way in the future I can hopefully get a little bit more experience and be successful in larger quantities in the years to come. But I'm gonna set this guy to the side so it don't accidentally get picked up and thrown into compost with all the other stuff that I'm pulling up. And then I'm gonna finish cleaning out the beds. So it is an interesting thought process when cleaning out the garden at the end of the season, because I'm super excited for the new season. Like, I'm super excited to see what 2023 is going to bring. I hope it brings growth, you know, more people, as far as like people interested in local flowers and learning about how much better local flowers are than store-bought flowers. And I also, of course, hope it brings growth to the garden, because I want to hopefully be able to expand to some new property so we can grow more. But it's also sad at the same time, because I hate to see the garden go, because you kind of, I don't know, I've enjoyed having the fresh flowers in my house, even though they're always destined to go somewhere else. I've enjoyed just the work out in the garden itself. It's an escape from the real world, which I know sounds super cheesy, but that's what it is. But it's also a lot of stress, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So it's kind of a weird thought process. Sad to see it go, but excited to see it go, because the garden does need a rest. The dirt, the soil itself does. The plants need a rest. I need a rest. But I'm excited to see what next year holds, and I hope and pray that it's a good year. Wanted to show you something cool. If you wonder about gladiolus corms, and how they're formed. So you have your mother corm, and then you have a new one that grows along with it, so you can save it for the next year. Kind of cool. But yep, I'm gonna leave these. These guys are perennial, so I'm gonna leave them. But I'm gonna pull the gladiolus. I'm gonna save some of these. I said I wasn't, but I'm gonna try to save some just because I want to see if I can do it, because that'll help in the future. And lots of clover. So much clover in here. Normally I would leave some of this as like a little cover crop, but it's here. I'm gonna chop it, let it break down into the dirt so it can put some nutrients into it as the plant breaks down. And that way this bed will be ready for seedlings. This is the bed that I had my tulips planted in last year. I started planting them November, I think. November, December, and I think I even put some in January, but I can't remember. But I know for sure November and December. But I had them in that bed over there, and then this bed right here that I'm working in. But you're supposed to practice crop rotation, so I don't want to put them in the exact same spot this year. So the bed that lines the fence that you saw me cleaning first, that's where I'm going to put my tulips at this year. I don't quite know. I don't quite remember how many I ordered. It was a lot more than I had this past year. So we'll see where we fit them all. Shh, don't tell anybody. When those packages came in the mail, I sat them on the table and came back outside, and my husband was sitting there a few minutes later when I came back in to get some water, and I said, I may or may not have received more bulbs in the mail. May or may not. And he just started laughing. He don't even question it anymore. But he knows how much I love it, how much it makes me happy, and how much happiness it brings to others. So he's cool with it. But it's a work in progress. I'm working on the 2 longer beds over here now. Oh, there you go. So zinnias and gomphrena, stuff that's still producing well, stayed. Marigolds, zinnias that were here, pulled the snaps and the yarrow. That bed's clean with the exception of 1 amaranth and a few lisianthus I want to leave to overwinter to see how they do. Left the rebellious dahlia in place. Cleaned this bed out. It looks like there's still a lot of weeds in there, but what I do is I kind of take my little hand rake, go through it, break the roots up, and then leave it there to decompose. Adds organic matter back into the soil. Pull the glads out of the back. Left the rest of the stuff because it's still producing really well. And I'm also going to try to harvest some seeds from some of these. Clean this bed out, same thing. Chopped it up, left the organic matter to decompose. Here's something really cool. I have Orlea here. This is a cool weather crop, and I had it planted here and then over there. And this was a little guy that I guess did not produce during the spring, and it's been hidden underneath the other flowers that I had planted here. And now that it's cooled off and those other flowers have died off, it is now having its moment to shine. So we'll have a little bit more Orlea. This right here is why I'm leaving the marigolds. Where'd you go? There you are. That way the pollinators will still have plenty of time and food sources until the frost kills it off. Cleaned everything out but the volunteer tomato and some of the celosia. Left the dahlias because they're still producing, albeit slowly, but I'm going to leave them until the frost kills them off, and then I'll come pull these tubers. Left these zinnias, cleaned everything out of the bed but the dahlias in the back, and that one little grouping of marigolds and the purple perennial that I cannot remember the name of. As far as the Rebecca that is in the old tractor tire. Hang on. Let's walk. Right there. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna come like cut it down, like mow it down, so there's just a little bit there at the bottom, and see how it does over winter. We'll see if it grows back or if it dies off. It's a cool season flower, grows well in the winter time. I'm gonna pull the tree that's grown in it though. We have no issues with oak trees trying to grow in our yard because there's an oak tree and it reseeds itself all the time. I have a pepper and tomato over here. My rosemary, it's doing well. That rosemary is several years old. They grow into bushes. This will be my next area to attack, all the dead tomatoes. I have some of the zinnias that I transplanted out about a month and a half ago. They're blooming, so I'm gonna leave them till the frost kills them off. But I am gonna come attack some of these big weeds growing. I have volunteer tomatoes over here also, as well as this. That's literally one marigold plant. That right there. Yep. I'm gonna leave it until the frost kills it off. And I think aside from over there on the fence panel where I was talking about putting tulips, I think once I pull the snaps out of this bed, I'm going to put tulips in this little raised bed as well. I think that'll fit all the tulips, hopefully. Then over here, this is where all the daffodils grow. I have veronica growing. I have these are apocalypse scorpion peppers. Very hot. Some of my lettuce I transplanted out here, grown in the green stalk. So here's what's really cool about plants, and when it comes to herbs in particular, if they look like they're about dead because of pest damage, leave them. They will rebound, they will grow back. This is parsley. It was literally, you can see, it was like eaten down to almost a nub. There was only a few tiny leaves like this left, and I had, I can't remember if it was the monarch butterfly or the swallowtail caterpillars over here, but they like built cocoons. You can see remnants of where their cocoons were, but they absolutely love parsley. And so they ate almost all of my parsley here in the green stalk, which was fine. It was my sacrificial parsley. I want more butterflies because they're pollinators, but I left it. And I was like, if they grow back, great. If they don't, they don't. But it only had a few leaves left by the time they got done that were like teeny tiny. And a month later, this is what it looks like. It has grown back fiercely. So I'm gonna leave this to grow, harvest off of, make some Darcy sauce, and I'm gonna leave it to overwinter and see how well it does. And even though it has powdery mildew, I have zinnias growing here as well. My Colette rose, strawberries growing. This has turned out to be a little bit of a garden tour. I've cleaned a lot of this out. All the glads that I had grown in pots up here are gone. Pumpkins. Nature has reclaimed that one. Oh well. Dahlias, I'm gonna leave them. When I see that we're gonna get a freeze, I'm probably gonna pull these and put them under the carport. Since they are in pots, I don't want the roots to freeze. That way I can save those tubers. Eucalyptus. I'm gonna pull these. This Rebecca did really good up here, but I really want to turn this into just lavender because that's what those two plants are. I can't remember if it's black satin or black karma dahlia. This is a potted dahlia. Well, I say potted, but it's grown in a pot. But look at that gorgeous beauty. I've been putting these in some of my pumpkin arrangements, and they have done well. This one is far gone. It is too old to put into an arrangement, but just look at that. So pretty, so pretty. This thing has been a workhorse. These two dahlias, which they're both the same, have produced so many buds, so many flowers. I mean, you can see it's a prolific producer. Oh, it stained my hand red. How about that? So here's one that'll be opening soon. It rained last night, can you tell? Another one. So definitely saving those tubers. I just love the color of those. My mom's got knocked down by the rain, but aren't these gorgeous? I don't remember what variety of chrysanthemum this is. I've got a tag over here. Let's see. These should be netted, in all honesty. Cheerleader. These tomatoes are producing still, so I'm leaving them. Peppers, eucalyptus, the banana tree that one of my customers gifted me. My oregano stays in the pot, stays right there all winter long, so she'll stay right there. Come around. More peppers. That mom just, it gave up on life. I bought this from a fundraiser for a local FFA chapter, and when I planted it, I broke it, and I was hoping maybe I could save it, but I don't think she's gonna be saved. The eucalyptus is doing good. And before I'm done with this video, I'll take you over here. This is where I had a lot of basil and rudbeckia planted. I've pulled all the rudbeckia, but that one plant, which is getting ready to get pulled. I have some of my chrysanthemums, different varieties, planted right here, and then one of my blue disc daisies left that I used the greenery off of it. It is absolutely gorgeous. Maximum effort on Halloween decorations, y'all. We like the Nightmare Before Christmas, so that's 0 if you don't know. Just the ghost dog from the Nightmare Before Christmas. But I'm going to pull a few more weeds, and then I'm gonna head in, get my hands washed, and start supper. I hope you enjoyed kind of the garden clean out and update video, as well as a quick little walk around. I didn't take you to the big garden yet. I will try to work on doing that tomorrow and get that posted soon. Thank you so much for joining me. Please definitely check back, because we'll have a lot of things coming up preparing for the 2023 garden. So definitely check back regularly to stay updated on all of those wonderful things. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you come back to see me again. Have a blessed day.